Hey everyone, welcome to this new bonus video. Today we are talking about, well, the WWE Royal Rumble that actually just finished about 30 minutes ago or so. And it's been a little bit since I've actually done a wrestling-related video on my YouTube. But I wanted to do a review for the Royal Rumble because I actually was watching it live with a bunch of friends. And um, there's actually a good amount to talk about with this pay-per-view, so it's just perfect to just discuss. Of course, those who aren't fans of wrestling probably aren't going to click on this video, but of course, if you're not a fan of wrestling, you're not really going to get what's going on or anything like that. But anyway, so the opening to the show, we had the expert panel kind of showing off, and they talked, and it was funny because I got to have to sit through Jim Duggan tonight. Got to see Flair, got to see Shawn Michaels, and Josh Matthews always hosts the little thing. And there were some funny little things between those three guys throughout the evening. Nothing spectacular. You knew none of the guys were going to be involved with the matches themselves, though easily Michaels and Flair could probably still go out there in the ring at any point and have still gone 30, 40 minutes in that ring, just because that's who they are and that's how they've always been. But the opening matchup was the tag team title matchup between the Rhodes family, Cody Rhodes and Goldust, versus the New Age Outlaws. Tag titles on the line. This was on the pre-show, so it was free on YouTube and free other whatever. But it's always been weird because I've always had it that the free shows, the free-for-alls they used to be called, or the free half hour before pay-per-view, I've always had to order the pay-per-view in order to then see the free show. Like, I never actually got the free show for free. That's just how it's always been with my cable networks. Either way, we were already getting the pay-per-view, so it was cool to see that matchup. This is going to be a matchup that I would have liked to have seen go 5-10 more minutes. Was the ending perfect to this matchup? No, but there was a lot of good stuff here. Goldust and Cody have shown just how good of a tag team they have really become since winning the titles back in October. The New Age Outlaws, they're still good. They have still been able to do what they were always basically able to do, and never been a fan of Billy Gunn on his own. Always liked him as a tag team wrestler, whether it was Smoking Guns, whether it was New Age Outlaws, and to see these guys get back together, re-win the tag team titles 14 or so years after they last won the titles, so now they're a 6-time WWE Tag Team Champion. This, of course, also would lead up to stuff we would see later between Cody and Goldust, leading up to a potential matchup at WrestleMania, which is something that's been talked about for a few years, especially now with Goldust making this big comeback. And doing some really good stuff. And unfortunately, I don't know how many more months Goldust will be on the main roster. Probably just up through WrestleMania, because he'll probably retire at Mania. But it's like he's so good still. He has some really good stuff for a guy who is his age, who's probably past his prime in a lot of ways. It's still going out there and performing better than some of the other and younger guys on the roster that should be stepping up. But this was a fun matchup. Was it a great matchup? They could have gone a lot longer. I really enjoyed this opening matchup. The New Age Outlaws ended up getting the win, taking the tag team titles. They're the champions now. And like I said, taking the belts off of Rhodes leads to something that happened later on we'll talk about. And also, of course, like I said, potential stuff for WrestleMania. Of course, Royal Rumble is kind of the beginning, the road to WrestleMania. This year, WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans. So a lot of things that happen tonight will be hinting and leading towards stuff we will see. A little bit for Elimination Chamber next month. Next month was kind of like the last major stop. And then, of course, at Mania itself in beginning of April. Now, the pay-per-view actually begins, and you get Daniel Bryan versus Bray Wyatt of the Wyatt family. And I've been a big fan of Bray Wyatt since he was Husky Harris back in the day, part of NXT, and he really completely reinvented himself. Not only did he slim down a bit, he added a whole bunch of stuff to his arsenal. He has really developed this Bray Wyatt character into one of, if not the best characters going on WWE TV currently. And that's what WWE was built on, was characters of the last 20, 30 years, has been building these characters. And he's, like I said, is one of the best characters going currently in the WWE. And of course, Daniel Bryan is the most over wrestler. If you don't know what over is, it means the guy who gets the loudest reception when he comes out, that we've seen in a long time. And this is something that's not a one-week thing like we saw back a year or so, 2 years ago with Zack Ryder, got kind of this big little thing for a very small period of time, and then it kind of died down. We've been seeing Daniel Bryan with this huge ovation. The yes chants are just unbelievable for the last 6, 7, 8 months that Daniel Bryan has had this whole thing. It's a ridiculous ovation. The fans love it. And they put on easily the match of the night, early contender for match of the year in many ways. It probably won't get that because who knows? We have a whole year of wrestling to go in WWE alone. So it may not be, but it needs to be in the discussion very early on. These two put on a fantastic match. Wasn't quite sure what to expect. Daniel Bryan can wrestle a paper bag, yes, but Bray Wyatt showed tonight how good of a talent he really is. There were some really good spots in there. There was only a couple little mistakes here and there, but overall, a very, very good matchup and a great way to open up the pay-per-view. You watch this, the tag team title change on the pre-show, and then this first matchup was Bray Wyatt ends up going over, looks strong against Bryan. The highlight easily being the Bryan doing the dive through the ropes, Bray catching him, and doing the Sister Abigail into the barricade, throwing him back in the ring and doing it again in order to get the 1, 2, 3. But like I said, the crowd was so into this matchup. The crowd really was behind Daniel Bryan, of course. Like I said, though, but Wyatt looked fantastic, in my opinion, this matchup. He's only been on the WWE main roster since July. Had his first major matchup with Kane back at SummerSlam, which I thought was but it was also the circumstances of the type of matchup that was. And he hasn't had a whole lot of matches, singles matches, since coming in. This is kind of like a single showing for him to see what's going to happen for the future, and he blew it out of the park, man. He just destroyed it. Fantastic match. Love it. This is easily your highlight of the night, this matchup in particular. We then have the Big Show versus Brock Lesnar matchup. This wasn't even a matchup. This was a great way to keep Lesnar looking unbelievably strong. They have been building Big Show up to be able to take whatever Lesnar could give out by throwing Lesnar all around the ring. Now, we've seen Lesnar fight Big Show in the past. This is something we've already seen. We know Lesnar can do the F5 to the Big Show. We know Lesnar can dominate the Big Show. This is something we have seen. Modern day of the return of Lesnar and the current Big Show, no, we hadn't seen it yet. WWE's been building it up for weeks on television with, like I said, Big Show tossing Lesnar around like a sack of potatoes. And this matchup, Lesnar immediately attacked. It takes a while for the bell to even ring. And then it's just really, by the end of it, Lesnar hits the F5 on Lesnar after a very little bit of offense from Big Show. Thankfully, they kept this match very short because it needed to be short. And Lesnar then beat the living crap out of Big Show on the outside with the chair. I was laughing at a lot of parts of this match just because I have a common thing. If you follow me on Twitter during Brock Lesnar matches, because he does have the sponsorship from Jimmy John's, because he has his UFC sponsorship still, his MMA sponsorships. I hashtag Jimmy John's all over the place during this matchup. You can check out my Twitter, Cornshaq. At Twitter at whatever it is, twitter.com/Cornshaq. You can check it out on there. You should. Follow me on Twitter. It's awesome. Regardless of that, like I said, this was a matchup that was made to make Lesnar look really strong. They're building this up. The potential is, of course, that Lesnar will be going after The Undertaker in the next few weeks leading into Mania. Will we see Lesnar versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 30? Will that be this year's Undertaker matchup? Now, of course, there are flying rumors everywhere that Sting, the WCW icon, former multi-time World Heavyweight Champion himself, a guy who has never wrestled for the World Wrestling Entertainment, is coming to WWE. This is something that they've been trying to do for years. Every time his total nonstop action, his TNA contract would run up, rumors start circulating that Sting's coming to WWE. Is this the year that finally happens? I think if it doesn't happen this year, it's finally over and we can stop talking about it. I think at minimal, they should do the Sting thing. I think, yes, you know that Undertaker will end up beating Sting, but this is a way to get Sting in WWE. Sting does the matchup for WWE for Mania. This is two older guys. They can work extremely well against one another in Taker versus Sting. It's an icon versus an icon. WWE can do a really good job of building Sting up for the months leading into it. And in the end, you also put Sting in the Hall of Fame. Ultimate Warrior and Sting in the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame ceremony is already well sold out at that point. if this occurs. We'll have to wait and see if that does happen. Who knows? Like I said, if not, then we have Lesnar Taker, which is what I think Lesnar looking so strong tonight will definitely help and aid in Lesnar versus Taker build-up. Also, of course, we have seen that before. And actually, when Lesnar fought Taker years ago, Taker was not doing the dead man gimmick again at that point. He was still doing the American Badass gimmick. And it was something that I really liked. I loved their Hell in the Cell matchup they had years ago. I thought it was a very brutal brawl. One match that I've always particularly enjoyed. It's not maybe everyone's cup of tea as far as wrestling matches go, but I always like that match in particular for Lesnar Taker. So I'm interested to see these two go at it again. And other than that, like the match is that's all the whole point of the match was. It wasn't really a match. It was just to make Lesnar look strong. Then it's time for your semi-main, your world title matchup. This is the Unified World Championship or whatever, the WWE World Heavyweight title that they call it, because now you combine the world title and the WWE title, so now it's WWE World title, whatever. Anyway, Randy Orton defending the belt against John Cena. This is about the 1,000th time we've seen this. This is actually multiple times that we've seen this particular matchup in the last few months, and this is just a one-on-one matchup between the two. Last month, we saw a TLC matchup between the two for the title, which is supposed to mean a hell of a lot more. It was for the unified belt at that point. They built up this matchup with Orton losing to Kofi Kingston a few weeks ago and then attacking John Cena's dad at ringside. Woo. In fact, Orton attacked John Cena's dad years ago, I heard. So I forgot about it, honestly, but that's what I remember hearing. So anyway, this isn't even the first time people had seen that. But anyway, Orton attacked John Cena's dad. That builds up this. They had a big brawl that went all around the arena on Monday Night Raw. And now we got Orton versus Cena for the 100,000th time. The crowd was so bored during this matchup. They were chanting boring, which happens a lot, and a lot of people don't like it. They think it's completely disrespectful for those wrestlers that are out there. But unfortunately, this is a very vocal crowd. This is a crowd in Pittsburgh. This is a very passionate pro wrestling crowd, a crowd that's very smart. A crowd that's been watching wrestling in their arenas for a very long time, selling out Pittsburgh arenas. Like I said, a very, very passionate crowd. Pennsylvania fans are extremely passionate about pro wrestling. Not like them in Philly. I mean, they're hard cities to wrestle in. There's no doubt about it. They love their wrestling. So the fans, though, are so bored. They're yelling. They're chanting boring. And they even sound bored while chanting boring. That's one of the tweets I sent out, because that's what it sounded like. They crapped all over this match from the get-go. It was to be expected, though. People don't like seeing smart wrestling fans, and you're smart, whatever. The internet wrestling community doesn't like John Cena, so they're gonna boo the crap out of Cena when he comes out. They really don't like Orton either. They think he's boring and overhyped, and we've already seen the matchup so many times already. So this is just a bad idea. WWE, you shouldn't have really even done this, but yeah, I guess you didn't want John Cena Superman in the Royal Rumble itself, but don't worry, you fucked that up too, but we'll be getting that in just a minute. Still though, this match is terrible except for one thing. Near the end of the matchup, which also, God, the end of this matchup, if you watched another plug for another video of mine, first play of WWE 2K14, the final one that has highlighted from WrestleMania 29, Cena versus Rock 2, where they exchanged finisher after finisher after finisher. And at the end of the matchup, which is pretty hard to pull off, you actually have unlimited finishers on both guys, and you can just keep pulling finisher, reversal. Everyone steals their finisher, blah blah blah, just finish. And that's all this match was. The end of it is like Cena hits finisher, Orton hits finisher, both the multiple finishers, then they steal each other's finishers, then they do each other's finishers again, then they do another finisher, and then that's it. Like, it was just, you remember when finishers meant something? Look, I love it when you do a really big build-up, and you hit a finisher, and the guy barely kicks out. But when you do it for 6 times in one matchup, in a matchup that no one gives a shit about, it really sucks, honestly. It really, really sucks. Bad booking decisions. There was a ref bump you saw coming a million miles away. It was not... Look, I'm not saying I can book better because I never have been able to. I've never proven something like that. It's not something I can really honestly say that I could book better, but I really, in my head, think monkeys at typewriters could program better, or book better, than this. It was awful. Awful stuff. Definitely I do not recommend watching this match at all, except for the very ending. Lights go out when Cena was going for his finish. Boom, Wyatt's interfere. They're just standing around the apron. Don't really do anything. Cena attacks one, blah, blah, blah. Attacks Bray, and that allows Orton to boom. RKO, 1, 2, 3. Orton retains the belt. This is leading to a potential program between Bray and now John Cena, since Bray just went over on Daniel Bryan earlier in the evening. So now will Cena be facing the Wyatts? Maybe a handicap matchup come up in the Elimination Chamber, maybe one-on-one at Mania. This is what you should be booking, WWE. Yes, we know John Cena will go over in the end over Bray Wyatt. It's unfortunate, but it's going to happen. But this is your potential. This way you keep John Cena out of the world title picture. We already know who it's going to be now, who's going to be for the World Championship. We don't want Cena involved. I don't even want Cena in the Elimination Chamber coming up next month. WWE, don't do it. Keep the belt off Cena. In fact, I prefer Cena without the belt. I think a lot of people can slightly deal with Cena much better when he's not going for the championship and definitely not facing Randy Orton. Please, for the love of God, I don't want either. I don't want to see Orton and Cena in the Elimination Chamber. If you're going to put one of them. Then don't even put them both in there. It's just a bad idea. Okay, now the main event. The reason why we are all watching this, the reason why we really care about this pay-per-view, and that is the Royal Rumble matchup. It is my favorite matchup of the entire year, my favorite pay-per-view, my favorite event. Ever since I was a little kid, Royal Rumble has always been my favorite. Since I first watched the, of all Rumbles, a pretty bad Rumble, in 1995. That was the very first Royal Rumble I ever really watched fully live. From then, I was hooked on the Rumble. I just love the idea of every couple minutes a new guy comes out. You never know who it's going to be. The music hits, the guy comes out, they keep going. You keep 30 guys end up in the ring, and only one ends up walking away. And it's just a really fun matchup. There's usually surprises. There's great moments. Yeah, maybe not always the best wrestling, because yes, you have 30 guys in there. Sometimes not a lot of space. What are you going to do? But there's always usually so many fun moments. And you look through the years and years of Royal Rumbles, there's a lot of great memories from the Royal Rumbles. And from that 95 one, I went back and, of course, watched all the other ones before that I could get on VHS. And then, of course, every year afterwards, that is, if I only order one WWE pay-per-view a year, it is going to be the Royal Rumble. Usually at this point, though, I only get 2 a year. I used to get all 4 major pay-per-views when, Survivor Series used to mean something. But at the same time, now I really only get 2. I only get SummerSlam half the time anyway. And that's WrestleMania and Royal Rumble. These are the 2 pay-per-views that I give a crap about. And I think a lot of people are kind of the same way for those who don't want to spend $55 on a pay-per-view. Now, don't get me wrong, WWE Network's coming out. Great idea. If it works, it's brilliant. $10 a month, you watch every pay-per-view from then on and through the WWE service live, and you can watch any old one on demand after they air. It's a great deal. WWE Network is cool. No, they're not giving me a free subscription for promoting it. I just honestly do think it's a good idea, and I like the WWE Network if it works. We have to wait till it launches to see if the service is reliable and actually works, because you're streaming HD material. It's not easy to do on demand. I mean, I guess Netflix and all do it, and a lot of people like it, but WWE, let's see if they can actually prove and do it. Anyway, so it's Royal Rumble time. We already knew CM Punk was going to be the first man into the Royal Rumble. This was already announced on Monday. And that led into him versus Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins was number 2. And these guys lasted almost the entire event. These guys lasted the longest. And that usually is how it is. Usually 1 or 2 or both last an extremely long amount of time. Not all every year, but usually a guy who comes in near the very, very beginning of the matchup ends up going very long. We've had other guys who have won it from the number 1 spot multiple times, or guys that came in 1 or 2 win it, or go the entire thing and they're the last guy eliminated. So it's always, and usually you put workhorses in these things, and workhorses meaning guys that can go long distances, whether it was Shawn Michaels back in the day. British Bulldog, when he was actually good, did a great job in 95 Royal Rumble. And there's been so many guys. Jericho would be a guy like that. Ric Flair used to be a guy like that. These are guys that can do it. Mysterio back in the prime. There's been a lot of guys who can do this kind of thing. Rollins, definitely one of those guys and a bright shining star in WWE, along with the other members of the Shield. And, of course, CM Punk. Duh, of course he can go. It's Punk. Anyway, I'm not going to go through everyone going in this match because it's the Royal Rumble. There were some really good, fun highlights. I love the fact that Corporate Kane actually was one of the entrants. Kane in his corporate attire actually was in there. Punk eliminates him. This would set up later in the evening for what would happen to Punk. Interesting enough, Alexander Rusev made his debut for WWE tonight in the Royal Rumble. He's a guy who's been wrestling at NXT. He's one of WWE's new pet projects, and in my opinion, one of the best shining examples of what's to come in WWE. This is a guy who is big, wrestling background, can move, can do some powerful moves. Yes, he is green because he's still very new to the business and still very new, learning a lot of things. But I think he looked pretty good. I think there were some really good highlights for him in this matchup that made him look strong. It took 5 guys to eliminate him in the matchup. So really good stuff here for Rusev. I was really shocked. Now, I don't know if he'll be a mainstay from here on out, though I am interested to see, of course, matchups between maybe him and a guy like Big E Langston. I mean, this is your potential that you have. I mean, you could eventually build up him and Batista at some point in the future. I mean, there's a lot of stuff Rusev will be able to do. Like I said, he is one of WWE's pet projects, and it should be a lot of fun to watch him wrestle in the future. Like I said, I was really happy. I was like the only one, of course, who knew who he was when he even came out amongst my friends and everyone that was there. But still cool. I love NXT. You should watch it. You should support it. You can check it out, I think, on Hulu. Anyway, or whatever it is. NXT, a lot of fun. This was cool to see him in this. Of course, Kofi Kingston was in this and did another big spectacular thing. Actually got thrown over, got caught by Rusev. Rusev put him on the barricade, beating him up. And then, of course, Kingston builds himself back up on the barricade and runs off the barricade and jumps to the ring, saving himself from elimination. Of course, lasting for a long period of time after that. And, of course, finally getting eliminated. But once again, another shining thing for Kofi, who does this every year, does these spectacular things. I mean, him and John Morrison used to match each other 1-for-1. Unfortunately, Morrison made some poor choices in his career. He doesn't WWE really doing much anything I know of. Either way, Kofi looks really strong here. A little bit of a push going on with Kofi here again. But we've seen that before, and then as soon as that usually happens, they then demote him right away again. It's weird. I don't know what they ever. I think Kofi is the kind of guy that needs to be kind of imagined at this point if you're going to do a really big push with him, and that may be hard to do. I don't know if you're going to be able to do it because he's such a good talent with a lot of really cool stuff he can do. And he can work long periods of time, can do good matches with most people. But like I said, they seem to push him a little bit, and then they drop him right back down. Anyway, let me look at, another, of course, number 14 entering into the Royal Rumble was Kevin Nash, one of my absolute favorites, of course, of all time. Now, a lot of people don't like Nash. That is fine. Nash was the world heavyweight champion, really, for when I got into wrestling, back in 1995. And, so Diesel was the first, world champion I really knew. And yes, WWE 1995, one of the worst years of pro wrestling ever. But, like I've always said, the year I got into wrestling, so it was kind of the first thing I saw, and yet I still got hooked on wrestling, and I'm still a fan today. And anyway, Nash did not look that great in this, and I'll be honest, I really like the new logo and all, though, he had on the tights. I don't know if he had that before, maybe on indies, if he's done any indies, I don't even know, recently at least, but I did like the logo. He looked good. He just didn't do, there was some mess-ups here and there, that did not look very strong. Maybe not his fault, maybe people just didn't hear, maybe timing issues, whatever it may be. But anyway, Nash didn't last very long before he ended up getting the boot over by Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is the one we really need to talk about here with the Rumble, and that is Roman Reigns. There had been rumors circulating for weeks that this was the time for Roman Reigns to shine. That this was going to be his kind of coming out as the best guy of the Shield as far as WWE is concerned, because of course, you can argue he's the weakest of the wrestlers. Tonight, though, he looked good. Tonight, I have to give him props. He looked extremely strong out there. He wasn't botching stuff. He hit better spears than the guy who ends up winning the damn thing. Has some brutal looking spears in this matchup. Too many guys still use the spear, but it still looked pretty good from Reigns. He lasted a long period of time, didn't really look winded at all. And in the end, the crowd was all on him and loving it because of stuff that happened, and we'll get to that. So it's just, Reigns looked really, really good tonight. He ended up he was the last guy eliminated before the winner. So, before he ended up, he was the last guy thrown out. He was number 20, the 29th elimination. Anyway, like I said, Reigns looked great tonight. This was his kind of big thing, his big kind of coming out thing, and it was great. He looked great. He eliminated both Ambrose and Rollins during the matchup. Of course, this is leading to the breaking up of the Shield. We knew that was coming. That was kind of being rumored for a while as well. And Reigns will now step forward as the solo guy from the Shield. We'll see how WWE handles this, see how WWE uses this. But you have a potential star on the rise, and this is how you're going to use it. How you're going to do this, WWE. You have to write it. Because it's not going to just do... He did his part tonight. Now you have to do your part and put him in the right program in order to take that to the next level, to see if you got a guy who can be a mainstay roster guy for years to come. That's your move. You'll have to see what happens. Sheamus returned tonight, which was cool. Rumor had that would Sheamus be healthy enough to come in. He came out. He looked good tonight. He definitely wasn't looking like he was injured. Had some good spots. And like I said, good showing for Sheamus. Welcome back to the main roster. Gotta see who's going to get in a program with, though. Like, I don't know. It was kind of weird. I was actually not expecting to see really much of Sheamus until after Mania, because I figured even though if Sheamus was healthy, go past Mania, then bring Sheamus back in, you can start with the whole new programs for the year, figure out some places and some stuff he could do. Because I think one thing that Sheamus was suffering from is that he was falling out of the main event picture and wasn't having proper feuds. He wasn't gelling with some other guys, and he just kind of seemed lost in the entire mix before he got hurt, which I actually thought the injury would help him. He could come back months later and kind of start rebuilding himself. But either way, that's what happened, and we'll see what they do with Sheamus from now on. Okay, we had oh god, El Torito, man. El Torito got a huge pop from everyone inside, everyone that was here with me. El Torito looked like, and I even put it in tweeting, he looked like a flying furry sperm, wearing this all white outfit with the bull fur and the horns, and he had some funny stuff with CM Punk. That's probably the highlight right there. It was a joke entrance. Of course, I'd rather have seen a surprise entrant, a legend, or something unexpected come in. But whatever. They put Hornswoggle in a few years ago, so now they put El Torito in there. Whatever. It was kind of little funny things. I'm not a huge fan of it, but he wasn't involved. JBL ended up coming in as well as a surprise entrant, just so he could come in, go over the rope, take off his jacket, hand his jacket over the rope to Cole, and get thrown over by Roman Reigns. So you add another number of the Roman Reigns eliminations. But you also had the last, I think, of the surprise entrants be a bust. What was the point? Look, I am a huge JBL fan. Don't get me wrong. Love JBL. One JBL I think should be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame soon, since, the whole thing. But, regardless, it was a really dumb spot. This was your chance to bring out Daniel Bryan. The fans were chanting it during the Rumble. They wanted Daniel Bryan. Yes, he got beat up by Bray Wyatt, but this was the beginning, and this was kind of like your last spot, because we already knew at this point, at least I did, and my friends, that we knew how many other people were still scheduled to be in the Rumble. Now, one guy who was scheduled who didn't even show up was Xavier Woods. He was supposed to be on the original listing for guys in the Rumble. He wasn't. I guess Rusev took his spot, or El Torito took his spot, whatever. Too bad, Xavier. That was maybe your only chance to be in the Rumble. Who knows? And I like you, but it doesn't seem like WWE is really going to do too much with you. Anyway, so you keep going. Ryback comes out. The other Uso had come out. They had Jay and Jimmy both were in it. Del Rio had come out, which they're talking about a guy who has completely fallen. Del Rio has, and they've really tried to move Del Rio, and there are even rumors of Del Rio Mysterio at Mania. No thanks. I'm sorry. And I think Del Rio is a very good hand. I just don't think he's your main eventer. I think he's the very good upper mid-card guy, can jump up the main event for periods of time, but he will never be the bona fide, permanent main eventer that WWE really, really wanted Del Rio to be. And it's nothing against him. He's had some good matches. He's floundered at times, but he's had some really good stuff over it. Like I said, I do like Del Rio. I just don't think that WWE is going to... they don't have their bona fide main eventer with him. Then it was Batista, who comes in and starts eliminating everybody that was pretty much around, that was still left in the ring. Of course, everyone was expecting Batista. Of course, the big hype up on Monday, and of course, the rumors were flying with Batista ended up winning the Rumble. In fact, I thought it was either going to be Batista or CM Punk. About the same time, CM Punk gets eliminated by Corporate Kane. He had been eliminated way, way early in the matchup, surprisingly. I guess came out from the crowd or under the ring or whatever it was during some part of it, and eliminated CM Punk over the top and then chokeslammed him through a table. My expectation is Corporate Kane did this partly for stuff that's happened in the past, also partly for the Authority. And still leading up to the potential that we have been expecting, Triple H versus CM Punk at WrestleMania 30. This is a matchup that I think a lot of people are expecting, and I am too. And I do expect actually good things from that matchup, but that's leading, I think, more towards this. I think Punk fights Kane either tomorrow night on Raw, because WWE is stupid and can't book, or we'll see it at the Elimination Chamber, Punk versus Kane. That leading into, of course, Kane winning, or at least afterwards, Triple H finally really attacking Punk even more so, and leading to the matchup at Mania. So, your last person to come out. Everyone wants Daniel Bryan. Everyone's chanting for Daniel Bryan. The yes chants are going insane. But, booyaka booyaka 619, here comes Rey Mysterio. And the fans die. That was it. Your crowd was killed for the rest of the pay-per-view. They were pissed. It wasn't even, that kind of sucks. No, they were pissed. They died. They booed. Now, granted, they're not booing Rey Mysterio, or whatever. They are booing just the fact. It could have been anybody in that spot other than Daniel Bryan, unless it was a real kind of cool surprise entrant. He probably would have done well, like a Jake Roberts that had been rumored. But we kind of figure with some recent things, Roberts wouldn't have ended up getting the spot because WWE really just didn't want to do it. Bad move, in my opinion. You could have just done the thing with Jake Roberts earlier in the night with like Ambrose and done some stuff. There was some really easy booking things you could have done with Jake Roberts, and he wouldn't have had to do very much at all. Anyway, it doesn't matter who was in the spot for Mysterio. Like I said, it could have been any of the other main ones. I remember, I think Miz was the last entrant. Usually the last entrant either can be really cool or really disappointing, depending upon who it is. But here, they were so pissed, they booed the whole thing out of the building. They booed for the rest of the night. They were pissed. They were chanting yes, then chanting no, saying no on the rest of this matchup. Mysterio doesn't even really do that much before he's eliminated anyway. So honestly, WWE, think about it, that little bit that Mysterio got to do, wouldn't it have been better just to throw Daniel Bryan in the matchup? Even if Daniel Bryan doesn't win, he didn't have to win. He could have come out beaten, limping, whatever. The fans would have freaked. Yes, and of course you could still have Batista in the end go over, or whoever. Daniel Bryan didn't have to win. This wasn't something that he had to win. Now the fans wanted it. Many fans wanted it. A lot of people really, really wanted Daniel Bryan to win this thing, but they didn't have to do it. I mean, just having him in the match would have been enough to satisfy your crowd. Your crowd wouldn't have shit on the rest of your main event. The last 10 minutes of the Royal Rumble matchup itself, 10 minutes of pay-per-view time, fans were sitting on their hands or chanting for Daniel Bryan, booing the shit out of the guy you let win the Royal Rumble in Batista. This is not against Batista. I expected Batista to win this whole thing, especially with the big hype, of course, signing a big contract. How are you going to get Batista back, WWE? You let him win the Rumble and go on to WrestleMania. Who's he going to face? Well, clearly, I don't think a Batista-Orton matchup is something that's going to happen. So something's going to happen in the next few weeks, probably Elimination Chamber, to change up this potential matchup. Is it Batista-Cena? Well, that's a dumb fucking move, but that's a very good possibility. Either way, you have to watch this to believe it. If you did not see the pay-per-view live, you'll be able to see the highlights, I'm sure, or you can find the clips online somewhere, or download it, or whatever. You need to see the ending to this, because this is how you don't book. Yes, of course, as a booker, you never give the fans everything they want, because that's a dumb thing. If you give the fans everything they want, then they don't expect anything. No surprises, no nothing, no whatever. But you already had a low moment earlier in the night. You already had a shitty Lesnar match. No one cared about that. And then you had Cena Orton that really kind of started pissing off your crowd pretty good. And then the Rumble itself, and you don't put Daniel Bryan in the really kind of like boot, that last big boost. That Daniel Bryan's music hit at number 30, the fans would have freaking blown the roof off the building. Everyone at home would have been like, holy shit, listen to this. This was a moment you could have had. And Rey Mysterio, that's your moment. Rey Mysterio is your moment. And like I said, it's nothing on Rey. It didn't matter who the spot was. It was bad. It's horrible booking. Also, honestly, and it's whatever, Batista blew like 6-7 spots in the very short period of time. Now, Batista was never a graceful worker in WWE, so I'm not expecting gold from Batista. I am not expecting 5 out of 5 stars on the wrestling dirt sheets. I'm not expecting that from Batista. I am expecting someone to be not blow that many spots in a very short period of time. Is it always him? No, but his timing was off. His timing was bad. he looked bad. He looks rusty as shit. He looks like rusty shit. He really needs to go in the ring every day and practice. That's how you get better. You got to get your timing back. My feeling is he's been working out, of course, but that's probably all he's doing. He wasn't probably bumping. He wasn't probably doing his timing in the ring. You have to get ring rust off, Batista. That's how it works. You can't just step right back into the ring and expect to be able to, do it. Yes, it is kind of like a bicycle, and you'll be able to jump on and do something, but timing, that's something that you never got quite anyway, and it looked really, really bad tonight. And this is going to be your main eventer for your WrestleMania 30, your biggest WrestleMania ever, I guess, because it's 30 years of Mania, so you got to be really big, right? But this is going to be your guy in the potential main event for your World Heavyweight Championship. He needs to work on his timing. And it's not, like I said, I actually like Batista. Back when he did his whole big thing, when he kind of broke through with matches against Triple H and matches against Cena, matches against Taker, I liked Batista. There's nothing, so Batista can be that again. He has a lot of work to do. And tonight, though, with the way that crowd was and the way they booed Batista out of that building tonight, you have seriously put in jeopardy the amount of money you just spent to bring Dave Batista back. You may have already killed this thing before it's really even began. Roman Reigns, by the end of this whole thing, being the last guy in there, got cheered the hell out of. The fans were they were chanting Roman Reigns. Good for Reigns, bad for Batista, because they were so pissed about Daniel Bryan, they weren't going to go for Batista. Not going to happen. So they went with Roman Reigns. So yeah, like I said, this is a Pittsburgh crowd. This isn't your average fan. But by the end of the night, your main eventer for Royal Rumble, who's supposed to be a face, your main eventer for WrestleMania, who's supposed to be he's supposed to be your good guy, got booed out of the building. Not necessarily a good way to end a pay-per-view, WWE. Anyway, guys, that's my opinion on the WWE Royal Rumble 2014. If you have any more specific questions, you can go ahead and ask in the comments. I know this video ran long, but there was a lot to talk about with Royal Rumble. Hell, I almost talked about as long as the Royal Rumble matchup itself. Hey, that's kind of what I do. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.